Ladies and gentlemen, I can't get the song I Got My Boots On out of my head. Man, that song, right? I've got my boots on. I'm sorry, that song just did it for me. All right, I want to talk to you guys about something. I used Ancestry.com. I used their census records and birth certificate records to trace my family's tree: grandmother, grandfather, grandfather's grandmother, grandfather's grandmothers. And both my father's side and my mother's side, they both, and this is the unique part. Please understand this. It's an impossibility otherwise. My father's three generations back prior to his mother are from Kentucky. My mother's three generations back prior to his mother are from Kentucky. Imagine that. Huh. That's strange. But no, 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 no. Hold on now. Around the exact same time, the families relocate to Louisiana. Ain't that something? How's that possible? Coming from Kentucky, going to Louisiana? People don't do that. There must have been a reason. Let's see if we can find out the reason. Oh, look at that. Before the 1800s, the Cherokee Nation held dominion over most of the modern day Kentucky and surrounding areas. Now, European explorers, including Hernando de Soto's expedition, described the Cherokees as dark skinned, copper colored peoples. Ain't that something? I know these individuals saying that they're Native American and part of, pay attention, the Cherokee tribe. I want y'all to pay attention to that word right there, tribe. Pay attention to that word. That word means a lot. I'll show you the difference in a moment. Sorry, I put my boots on and I decided to do some research. Okay, well we'll do it now. We'll get rid of the suspense. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. They were a nation, not a tribe. They were never a tribe. Sorry, please understand that. They were a nation. Now hold on now. Specifically providing policies and procedures to destroy their identity. Uh-oh, now we got to be transformed into a tribe. Indian Removal Act, or Indian Reservations. We're doing it to save you. Signed by President Andrew Jackson, authorized the forced relocation of Native American quote-unquote tribes. Again, pay attention. They weren't tribes, they were full nations. That's why you hear the individuals talking about the over 200-year war against the nations that were already here. Not just peoples, trying to belittle it as if they were some little small little group, little community, little group hiding in huts and please, including the Cherokee, to lands west of the Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you my family, pay attention, went from Kentucky to a land west of the Mississippi known as Louisiana. Okay? And it was the 1830. I just looked at it now. When you look at the records, that's when they went to Louisiana. I didn't know until I just looked at it where it said 1830. I am not joking with you. That's what the records show, that they moved to Louisiana at that time. I'm just paying attention to it now. But then they want us to prove our ancestry to them. Ladies and gentlemen, do your ancestry. Those of you who are copper colored people, I'm not joking. Prove your ancestry. Once you do that, you don't have to get nominated by no stupid tribe. You just have to prove your ancestry. You have to prove that they were Cherokee. You have to prove that they were not. But you need to understand, they cannot be taxed. That's the first thing. They are not U.S. citizens. They can't be. Okay, no matter how much they try, they can't make them. You follow me? Do your research. Well, anyway, let's continue, shall we? And their objective was to free up lands like Kentucky for white settlers. That's right. Why did they want to do that? Well, notice this treaty right here. This was signed by a majority of the fractions. See, they didn't call them tribes anymore. It said fractions. But the Cherokee Nation government, so they're not a tribe, people. They are a full government. They are a nation. They want us to believe that they had little bow and arrows. Woo, 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 please. Ladies and gentlemen, stop believing that stupid stuff. Hold on. The government, United States government, ceded all Cherokee land east of the Mississippi, including Kentucky claims, in exchange for lands in Oklahoma. Hold on now. Want y'all to understand. A lot of the Cherokees did move to Oklahoma. Sure did, sure enough, Shogun. But told you my father's birth certificate, my birth certificate, my father's birth certificate says Negro. I do appreciate that because they identified me as Indian. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, hold on. The direct cause of the Trail of Tears. Military enforced removals. Ladies and gentlemen, they were forcibly removed from their land. They were evicted without law. U.S. Census reclassification order. Pay attention. The 1950 Census instructions. Any Native American not on a federal reservation must be recorded as free, colored, or Negro. Now pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. The 1850 census says that all you Negroes, I'm sorry, all you colored folks were free. Go back, go take a look at it. Now hold on. Dark-skinned Native people living among settlers were stripped of their legal identities. They say tribal, but it wasn't tribal. It was national identities. And reclassified as Negroes or free-colored. The Dawes Act of 1887. This is after, where they claim that they sat up there and did their little 14th Amendment thing, right? Whew, man, what did they do? It dissolved the communal tribal land ownership. Literally took their land away, offering individual plots in exchange for U.S. citizenship. We're going to give y'all this land over here, and y'all get to become 14th Amendment citizens, federal citizens. Go ahead, look at the date. Those who refused were excluded from the rolls, denied land, and forcibly reclassified as Negroes or coloreds. My family was in Louisiana, not in Oklahoma on no reservation. Pay attention. Jim Crow, racial integrity laws. Enforcing racial classifications based on appearance, dark skin, Negroes, or coloreds. No legal recognition of Native American identity if you appeared Negro. Say what? If I appeared Negro, that's why you had this thing about mulattoes. Okay? Sorry, systematic method used. Military raids on Cherokee communities, Trail of Tears, Death March caused immense suffering and mortality, death. Census policies and state racial integrity laws systematically erased Cherokee identities on paper. They made it so that you can't prove your history, but you can go back to those records. Dow rolls excluded many dark-skinned copper-colored natives by fraudulently classifying them as Negroes, denying them land. Sovereignty destruction. Reclassification invalidated treaties, protections, and federal, pay attention, recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, go find those treaties. Go find those treaties. Now, he says, my family are descendants of copper-colored Cherokee nations from Kentucky, not Africa, brought via some transatlantic slave trade. They were forcibly reclassified through U.S. so-called laws, census fraud, and racial integrity statutes. Their loss of land and sovereignty and national identity was not an accident. It was a deliberate, calculated campaign of forced removal, legal fraud, military intimidation. Migration to Louisiana was a strategy for survival from ongoing state-sponsored violence and deportation or the dispossession. Today, that's deportation, people. Today, African American label for my people is a false identity imposed by the United States to hide the original Native American heritage of copper-colored Cherokee descendants. The systematic destruction of my people's nation, their national identity, was codified in U.S. law, fueled by greed and enforced by military power. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just highlighting that. But I'm going to start operating on just that, those treaties. Because here's the thing. America cannot abolish a treaty. A treaty is a treaty. You cannot get rid of a treaty unless, pay attention, the other side does something to violate the terms of the treaty. The only person who violated the terms of the treaty was America. Each one of these steps right here shows that they deliberately violated the terms of the treaty. So let's do this. I had them put together a code. Give me a second. Wake up. Now incorporate that code into this conversation. Now you mentioned the treaty with the Cherokee nations. Give me the name of each of these treaties and where a copy of each can be found in PDF format. Question mark. Stop listening. Gotta wait for him, ladies and gentlemen. He was doing some other work. And he's the anticipation GPT. I'm using him. I should be using from hero to Negro. From Negro to hero. I should be using that particular GPT for this. But I gotta ask the question generally because I want, well, look at that. Cherokee Nation entered into numerous treaties with the United States from the 18th to the 19th century. I mean, 1700s and 1800s. These treaties were pivotal in understanding the historical and legal context of the Cherokee people experiences, including land cessions. In other words, give me that land, forced removals, and reclassification policy. Below is a curated list of significant treaties involving Cherokee Nation. Remember, they're not called the Cherokee tribe. They're called the Cherokee Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, they were a government. They were a country. We keep thinking that this was free land. A bunch of Indians would, woo, please. Biggest lie ever told. And I know there are people out there that's been preaching this, and I'm sorry that I'm so late to this bandwagon, but I believed the lie until I started doing research 8 months ago. And now you can't tell me nothing because I told everybody when I was young, my sister was telling me about this. I didn't care. But then I started to realize, wait a minute, why did they do that? Why did they go through so much trouble to hide this? Because it must be true. Ooh, 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 I want you. Girl, you know it's true. Okay? There must be some truth to it. And of course there is. Ladies and gentlemen, the Treaty of Hopewell, 1785, establishes boundaries and peace between the United States and the Cherokee Nation. Now, it says it's available through the National Archives of American Indian Treaty Collections. Hey, you better believe I'm going to be checking that out. Now, this is the Treaty of Holston. You know, I've heard of the Treaty of Holston, believe it or not. There's actually a couple of cities by that name. Okay, summary. Reaffirmed peace and outlined land boundaries, including provisions for trade and protection. As digitized versions accessible via the National Archives. Yay! Then we have the Treaty of Tellico. Address land secessions. In other words, give me. And the establishment of new boundaries and available in National Archives again. Hey, the Treaty of Washington. Really? There was a Treaty of Washington? Resulted in significant land, seizures, because we might as well just call it land seizures, by the Cherokee Nation. Not by the Cherokee Nation, from the Cherokee Nation. They didn't take no land for nobody. Full text can be found there. Summary concluded the Creek War. Although primarily with the Creek Nation, it affected the Cherokee lands. Now, hold on. Oh, let me do that Creek thing in a moment. Treaty, Cherokee Agency. Whoa, the Treaty of Cherokee Agency. Whoa, really? They named it that? Okay, addressed land seizures and the relocation of some Cherokee to the west. Okay, and then you have the Treaty of Washington. There are two treaties of Washington, 1806, and again, interesting, ain't it? We have 1806 and again 1819. Further land seizures and provisions for education. Available PDF, blah, blah, blah. And then we have the Treaty of Echota. No. This was not signed by the Cherokees. Ceded all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi River, leading to the Trail of Tears. Ladies and gentlemen, but I thought the Trail of Tears was all native tribes. You really must understand how big the Cherokee Nation was. And the ones who decided they didn't want to go to the reservations, they were called Negroes because they refused. Oh, you stupid Negro. Sorry. I didn't make up the word. The government decided to reclassify them as colored or Negro. Remember, originally they were the copper-colored races. So they just started calling them colored. Lord have mercy. Okay, so I'm going to be looking up some treaties. You feel me? Ladies and gentlemen, because those treaties are still enforceable. Watch this. Wake up. Wake up. Have any of those treaties been officially abandoned and or canceled? Stop listening. You don't repeal a treaty. Status of Cherokee abandonment cancellation analysis. Some Cherokee treaties have been beneficially abandoned, overridden, or effectively canceled by U.S. actions. Almost none have been formally repealed by act of Congress or formal treaty nullification. So apparently, ladies and gentlemen, give me a second. I got to see what that says. Okay. Violated almost, and I got to go here. Sorry. I'm using a different. Wait, let's do. No, because that ain't going to give it to me. Got to do that. I just want that. Okay, violated almost immediately by local militia. No formal repeal. Okay? And recognized as invalid after. Wait, who recognizes as invalid? Supplanted by the Treaty of Washington and others. And U.S. violated boundary terms with cancellation. With cancellation, Cherokees were impacted even with cancellation. Migration and land cession after blah, blah, blah. Disregarded in favor of Indian blah, blah, blah. Signed without consent of official government. And tried to settle debts and land, blah, 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 blah. So this is the Treaty of 1846, Cherokee Agreement with the U.S. Attempted to reset after the Trail of Tears. Okay, legal mechanism used to abandon or override these treaties. Yay! All right, so we find the treaties that are not abandoned or overridden. Okay, watch this. Wake up. Give me a full list of the treaties that have not officially been abandoned or overridden, or where the Cherokee Nation did not violate the terms of the treaty. comma, and provide evidence and information on how all treaties of the United States that are valid are still binding on the United States. New paragraph. Stop listening. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this in this particular way that this is set up, I can't do the new paragraph and have it just do enter for me. It won't do that. So I have to do it this way. This is Claude and this is Poe. I get to have three homies, kicking it with me. Supreme Court case especially blah 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 blah. Okay. Where you can verify these facts. Okay. No. He went all the way there. I need down here. Okay. Cherokee Nation entered into numerous treaties with the United States. Many of them remain legally binding on the U.S. law. These treaties are considered the supreme law of the land as per the Supremacy Clause, United States Constitution, unless explicitly abrogated by Congress or found unconstitutional by the courts. These treaties continue to hold their legal force. Cherokee Treaty still legally binding, and it gives me the list. Ta-da. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know the Moors, but the Moors must understand that there were nations here, and they recognize that. So find those nations' treaties for which you derive from. Oh, the Creek. Sorry, got to do that right there. I'm curious. Wake up. Wake up. The Creek nation were dark-skinned aboriginals of America, provide evidence and proof of this. New paragraph. Stop listening. I'm curious. I don't know. I honestly, the truth, I don't know. I just saw them mention the Creek earlier, so I'm interested. Nation indigenous southern United States have been historically described as comprising of individuals with dark skin tone. Various historical accounts. Now it gives me those pictures. I can't go by these pictures. Why? Because those are not the pictures of that time. Benjamin Hawkins' observation in 1795. As the U.S. Indian agent to the Creek Nation, Hawkins documented the physical appearance of the Creek people. His diaries note that the Creek individuals often adorned themselves with body art, painting on their face and bodies with vibrant colors, including red and black, which complemented their natural darker skin tones. 19th century ethnogeographic accounts, ethnologist Albert Gelatin, anyway, and other contemporaries describe the Creek people's complexion as dark cinnamon with an olive tinge, distinguishing them from neighboring tribes. They were not tribes, you idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, I only anticipated that that's the answer it would give me, because history doesn't tell us that. We are given the other junk, but because many people have been finding the historical facts and historical records and have been placing those historical facts and historical records on the record. Remember, this is my anticipation GPT. So I've already done perplexity. That's what I copied. Negro labeled was politically motivated. Okay, I copied it from perplexity. I mean, not perplexity, but Poe. All right, I took everything in here to verify. From the very beginning of this conversation, I was verifying stuff. 1820 U.S. Census says Negro to hero. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I was doing. So I just wanted to share. I don't care. And I'm going to tell it to you straight out. I don't care if you say you're Native American. You have no control over that. You have no control over that because that's what you identify as. And I'm not doing the identification, he, she, and all of that stuff. I'm saying that's what you identify as because that's all you know. You don't know this. Yes. You were told a history too. Those of you who say that you're part of the Cherokee Nation, you were told a history too. You were told a lie. Why? Because you have the $5 Indian. where all individuals had to do was pay $5 to become part of a tribe, and they just moved onto a reservation. Well, remember, the native to America did not have to move to reservations. They had a choice. Now, they were forced to leave their lands, but if they wanted government assistance, they had to go to them reservations. If they didn't want government assistance, then they went on their own. Again, entire segments of tribes or that nation moved to areas like Louisiana. And yet y'all want to call them Cajun. And that's only because Louisiana, the French were there. The United States didn't care about Louisiana at the time. They were trying to build that area up. They were trying to go out west. They were trying to take over the entire nation from sea to shining sea. That's what was going on. They robbed these people of their heritage and they robbed them of their land. That's what was going on. All right. Well, gotta let you guys go. As far as the roosters, ladies and gentlemen, I got 5 roosters. Yeah, roosters can't do nothing for you unless you're gonna slaughter them and cook them, and roosters ain't got nothing for you. They can fertilize eggs. Yeah, they can. Even one guy had a rooster that laid eggs. Rooster laying eggs. Don't believe me? Go do your research. Well, anyway, I got 5 roosters out there with their going on. They're not doing it now, but they are out there, and I just got to go make sure their area that they have, it's okay. I got some lights and things I got to put out there because it is dark, but later tonight they're gonna find their way up in there and they're gonna be comfortable. I promise you. All right, gotta let you guys go. We will talk, and have a very good day, everyone. Goodbye.